Hey guys, welcome to this episode of JakeMakes. How are y'all doing? I should have said that first and then said welcome to JakeMakes afterward. It would have sounded a lot better. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a knife out of a wrench. Yes, a knife out of a wrench. That's a really popular thing on YouTube right now, and I'm doing it because I want to, not because it's popular, because I want to. Really, I'm serious, I'm not joking at all right now. I just really want to, so I'm going to. I'm going to make a knife, this knife actually, out of a wrench. I'm holding up the knife I made out of a wrench, because I decided to film my intro afterward for some reason, because that's also a thing really popular on YouTube right now. I'm not sure why. But I'm going to show you how to make a knife out of a wrench. Play the next clip, I guess. I don't even remember what it is, because I'm making this intro at the end, not at the beginning, so whatever. Alright, now as the forge is heating up, we need to talk a little bit about the design for this thing. This wrench has two ends. Duh. One of the ends is larger than the other end. That was also pretty obvious. Because the bigger end of the wrench is less comfortable to hold than the smaller end of the wrench, I'm going to be using the smaller end of the wrench as my handle, like this. I feel like I'm being very obvious here. Now, I purposefully chose the oldest wrenches I could find. Them being older has more chance of them being made out of higher carbon steel. However, I really have no idea what kind of steel this is made of, and to make a knife out of it, I really need to know whether it's going to harden or not. Now, I'm going to make a knife out of it whether it's good steel or bad steel, because I think it's pretty cool to have a knife out of a wrench, regardless of whether it'll hold an edge or ever cut anything. But just to find out, I'm going to test the hardness of this thing by heating it up to non-magnetic, or the steel's critical temperature, dunking it in a bucket of water, and then I'll take a file to it and see if it hardened. If it did not harden, I know it's not high carbon steel and it won't be hardenable or be a very functional knife, but whatever, we're going to make a knife out of it anyway. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Now, before I have all the real knife makers come crawling out of the woodworks to eat me, I'm going to mention here that I know very, very well that dunking hot steel like that in water gives it a very good chance of cracking and splitting apart. I know that, duh. I quenched it in water because I don't really care right now if it cracks, and, well, I do care, but I'm willing to take the risk right now. And because I know that this wrench, if it does have carbon in it, it won't have as much carbon as a regular knife blade, which means, in my understanding, that it's better to quench it in water because water is a harsher quenchant and will make it harder. That's my understanding, at least, and that's right. Just get that out of the way. Now I'm going to take my file and see if it actually hardened. Nope, this thing is soft as butter. So this is obviously not made of something that will harden. That's a bit of a bummer, not that I didn't really expect that, but I'm gonna make a knife out of it anyway. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is take the wrench and cut one of the wrench things off by hot cutting it. And hot cutting it is where you take the metal, heat it up, And while it's heated up red hot and very pliable, you take something like this with a sharp edge, stick your piece of metal in there, and hammer on the piece of metal, which, because it's soft and pliable, will cut through the metal of the hot thing, not the cold thing. Which is kind of funny why it's called hot cutting, because you're cutting it with something cold. It cuts through, and basically it's a way of cutting metal. Yeah, it's a way of cutting metal. I'm going to do that. There we go. This is a really annoying piece of metal to hang on to. Alright, the next step is to take this section right here and straighten it out, flatten it out, draw out this larger, thicker section. Eesh. This thing's dangerous. And I swear a plane flies overhead every single time I start talking. I'm going to... Shut up, airplane. I'm going to straighten this part out, flatten it out, and as you can see, it is thicker than this part here. And for this knife, I want the whole thing to be the same thickness. Okay? So I'm going to thin it out, flatten it out, and draw it out longer, and start drawing out my blade shape here. And I'm glad I had gloves on, because I just touched that and it's still really, really hot. Darn. This right here is what happens when you leave it in too long. That's very disappointing. At this point, there's really only one option. And that's to cut right here, get rid of all this, and make a much smaller knife. Okay, so here's the plan now. Pretty much the same. The difference is I'm going to have to start hammering right here to get enough length to make a rather decent blade. The blade is going to be thinner than original, probably about a little less than 1/8 of an inch thick blade, I believe, just so we can have enough metal to make a decent sized blade. At least like a 3-inch blade or something. Yeah, so I'm just gonna have to start lower and make the blade thinner and shorter, and maybe we can still get a half decent knife out of this. What am I talking about? Of course we'll still get a decent knife out of it, it'll just be smaller than I wanted it to be. Oh well. Alright, what I'm doing now is hammering right here in this section, like this, to push some of the material right in here, out towards the blade, and give myself a little, finger groove right in here. And now, of course, the metal's cooled down to where I can't really do much on this heat, but see, I'm just hitting it like this. And of course, I'm doing it terribly, but you get the idea. I'm going to try to give a little bit more of a finger groove in here. trouble is I don't have enough practice with the hammer, so my hits are not very accurate. I'm going to take the horn of my anvil, set it like this, hit this part right here, which will cause it to bend like that, which will make it nicer on the hand to hold. Back in the shop, let's go ahead and finish up this knife. Now I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking that Jake fooled you with editing and that he went and forged out that knife like a long time ago when it was warm and then came in here and is now freezing his tail off trying to finish it like weeks later. And like, you can think that if you want to. Really, Mississippi has incredibly drastic temperature changes and it's absolutely freezing in here. I literally don't know if I'm going to survive this one. It's cold. Like, it's cold. Like, you know, in one of the videos I joked about like 60 degrees being cold. Well, like, I don't know what temperature it is, but it must have a wind chill of negative 203. Like, it's so cold, my goosebumps have goosebumps. Do you see that? I hope you see that. Because otherwise it's weird. I can see my breath. I'm freezing. I'm wearing a hat, which is totally messing up my amazing hair. And I'm wearing a scarf, which is like strangling me. And I'm wearing a jacket, which is way too thin. And I'd be wearing gloves right now, but the insulated gloves I have are insulating the warmth, not the cold out of my hands. So I'm sticking them in my pockets to keep warm. I have heaters on, but of course I have to turn them off while I'm filming because it messes up the audio. I don't think I care though. I kind of want to stay warm. I feel like I want to die right now. It's so cold I want to die. Which is a distinct possibility if I stay in here for much longer. So I go to dunk it in water to cool it off. My water is frozen solid. On the upside, it won't take as much time for my blade to cool off. I'm wearing gloves not because I think it's safer, but because it's only negative 52 degrees inside the shop. Now I'm going to take this thing, stick it in the vise, and attack it with a wire wheel on my angle grinder. That should get rid of all the scale and bits of rust on this thing and make it look nice and shiny. Look at the finish it puts on there. Really, really cool. And really scary. That is one of the scariest tools I've ever used. Be really careful if you do that. Okay, dokie. Time to grind the bezels. And there we go. beautiful, finished wrench knife. Wait, aren't you forgetting something, Jake? I don't think so. Heat treat. You gonna heat treat the knife? Actually, no. Remember towards the beginning of the video, I first tested this wrench to see if it would harden. It did not harden, and so if I heat treated it, it would do nothing. I could heat treat it, but it wouldn't hold an edge any better than it does right now. So why would I heat treat it? That's just a waste of time. It might make it a little bit harder. It might make it softer. I really have no clue what this alloy is. If it's steel, which I don't know, probably is. No idea what this thing's made of. So no, I'm skipping heat treat. But I have a video on heat treating. If you guys want to watch that to learn how to heat treat a knife, I'll put a link to that somewhere. So yeah, we are actually finished now, which is awesome. I'm so happy. This knife is really cool, but that's not why I'm happy. I'm happy because I get to go inside and get out of the freezing cold. So here, play some clips of how cool the knife looks in pictures, and I will see you on the next episode of JakeMakes. Talk to you then.